Hello, welcome back to Algebra. Here we're going to talk about vertical and horizontal lines, and specifically the equations that govern horizontal and vertical lines. Now, in previous lessons, I've actually hinted around a little bit about vertical and horizontal lines. We talked a little bit about the slope of those special lines. Here we're going to talk about their equations, and I want to put it in its own section because they look a little bit weird at first. And I love my little graph here where I've been drawing all the lines, but I think for this lesson it's actually going to slow me down to use that. So I'm going to get the point across with just sketching a little bit more cleanly on the board. So forgive the freehand, but I think it's going to get the point across a little bit easier. Recall the following. Remember we talked about standard form, right? So we have standard form of an equation of a line. It's ax plus by is equal to c. Now a, b, and c can be any number. They can be negative numbers, they can be positive numbers, and they can be zero. They can be any number. It just governs a different line that points a different way, right? So we've done lots of these things. You know that by putting a, b, and c and making them different, we're going to have different equations of lines that come out and different graphs that come out. Now, let's take, just as an example, just to illustrate the point, let's take a is equal to 0, which we haven't done before, and let's make b is equal to 1, and let's make c is equal to 2. What would happen if we had that as our equation? Well, we put a in for 0, so it'd be 0 times x plus 1 times y is equal to c, which is equal to 2. Now, right away, you have a problem because your coefficient in front of the x is 0. So that means no matter what x value you put here, this term is always going to go away because it's multiplied by 0. And then, of course, y is just multiplied by 1. So really what you have here is a much simpler situation where when you set this thing equal to 0, what happens is y is always going to be equal to 2. Now, normally, we would be ready to handle anything that comes out of a standard form equation because we would say it's just going to, when we solve for y, it's going to be mx plus b. We read the slope, we read the y-intercept, we graph the line. Then you look at this and you say, this doesn't look anything like that. So how do I graph that? And what is this line? Okay. Well, when you have an equation of a line that has y equals a number, this is a horizontal line. And because it's a horizontal line, that means the slope is equal to 0. Remember, it's not slanted up or down. It's just actually equal to 0. Now, the way to think about this is the following. I know it doesn't look like a regular line, mx plus b. I know it doesn't look like that. The way you read this, though, is you say, this equation is telling you that y is equal to 2. The y value of every point on this line, for any point, is 2. So that means the reason it looks weird is because there's no x here. Usually it's mx plus b and there's no x at all, so it's like, what does that mean?